Hi all, this is Skate and welcome back to another Do's and Don'ts tank guide. And today I'm going to be having a look at the Tier 8 Premium American Heavy Tank, the T34. In World of Tanks terms, this thing is, well, it's a dinosaur in all fairness. It's been in the game since the start. And I personally feel like as the game has progressed, this tank's kind of been forgotten. Or if not forgotten, left behind, we'll say. The game's progressed, obviously it's got faster, but this thing hasn't changed and it remains the same. Back in the early days of Blitz, this thing was a force to be reckoned with in all fairness. And it was also a very, very popular tank. Nowadays, you don't really see it on the battlefield as much. It was actually the first premium tank I ever bought, this was. And when I first bought it, I played it non-stop because it made a truckload of silver. And then it was parked up in my garage for the last year, and I've barely played it over that time period until about a month ago. And the truth be told, it is still slow, it is still a dinosaur in terms of World of Tanks Blitz, but I really forgot how good it was. And more importantly, just how much silver this tank made. So, based on that, I thought I would do a quick do's and don'ts guide and show you guys how much silver this thing does actually make and see if I can hopefully help you make the same amount. So, this thing plays exactly like your conventional American heavy tank does. Actually, fun fact, this thing used to be a tier 9 heavy tank in World of Tanks PC when the T30 was a tier 10 heavy tank. The M103 and the T110E5 came into the game. This was then bumped down to a tier 8 premium, and the T30 shipped off to be a tank destroyer. That probably doesn't help in terms of how to play said tank, but I found things like that interesting. Anyway, the key thing on this tank, or the key important thing you must always think about when you're playing this tank, is turret and gun depression. That's what the tank is all about, and that's what you need to think about constantly when you're playing this tank. In fact, what we're going to do now is quickly whip up Armor Inspector and just give you a perspective or idea of what I'm on about. Here is the T34 being shot at by the BL9 from the IS-3. As you can see, the turret is pretty much impenetrable, except for the commander's hatch and the roof. But, as I said, the key things you need to think about is gun depression and turret. So, to counteract the biggest weak spot on the top of the tank, you need to use the full gun depression of 10 degrees. And voila, commander's hatch hidden. Granted, you can't always be in a position or get yourself in a position to hide and protect the tank like this, but this is what you need to always try and aim for. If you're coming across anything same tier or lower, I'd say don't worry about the turret being penned. However, if you come across a tier 9, they will penetrate the turret cheeks because there's only effective thickness of 270. So the solution there is wiggle. If you wiggle like mad, that will cause constant ricochets. As you can see from Armor Inspector, the hull is awful. Easily penetrated. Effective thickness at this angle anyway of 158. With the full gun depression, it's about 185 it is. But that being said, as long as you're using the gun depression on a ridge, you're not going to be showing your hull anyway. Don't ever leave yourself exposed in this tank. If there is nothing around you can use or take advantage of to use the gun depression, the next best option is not to sit there out in the open, it's to side scrape. The key point you're looking for, I would say anyway, always try and get the gun on the inside of the track because you know you're not going too far then. So that's my point of reference I'll always go for. The gun is in line with the inside of the track, and when you are side scraping out then, you're effectively in auto bounce zone. So, in short, protect the hull, hide the hull as much as possible, and rely on the gun depression and the stupidly thick armor on the turret. Next key attribute on this tank would be the gun. Has a slow or low rate of fire of 4, but it has crazy penetration. Penetration of 248, which is very good for a tier 8 on standard AP. The gun dispersion on it is 0.35, which is actually pretty good. The IS-6 has 0.43, the KV-5 has 0.4, and the Lerva has 0.33. But the Lerva is like a laser beam. The balance of this, or the balancing feature as a result, is the 3.4 second aiming time and the massive aiming circle. This thing, as a result, needs to stop, and you need to wait for it to fully aim to fire it. As usual, I have rambled on a little bit too much then, but I hope that's helpful rambling. Next up, the general bits and bobs on the tank. Camo you don't need, but it looks pretty in camo, and it makes a truckload of money anyway, so I wouldn't worry. Consumables, I always run adrenaline, a multi-repair kit, and a single repair kit. That's my standard loadout on all my tanks. On this tank, for provisions, I will always run the 2 for crew skills. And because it's a very slow tank, I would say to go for improved fuel over the protective kit. This tank doesn't really suffer with fires and things like that, but it does suffer with being slow. My ammunition loadout, you can see I don't really carry a huge amount of APCR because of the high penetration. The only thing I'd recommend doing differently to what I have done here is carry a little bit more HE. The splash damage is actually very good for not only clearing up lights, but also for clearing up low health enemies. And on an equipment front, you can actually fit a vertical stabilizer to this tank, so you need to fit that. You also want to be fitting the enhanced gun lane drive, and obviously a rammer is compulsory. That's the garage side of things said and done. Let's have a look at some gameplay.
I said, oh Lord Jesus, it's a fire!
Don't be shy. Come over here and I'll show you a little game I like to call Bouncy Bouncy.
Bouncy, bouncy!
Bouncy, 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 bouncy.
You can't stop me no matter who you are! Easy!
Enemy vehicle knocked out.
Boom!
Enemy armor is destroyed.